Hey guys, Mike from Mike's Gaming Gala here. A little while ago, I did a live stream tier ranking all the homebrew releases from 3 of my favorite Intellivision game publishers. I thought it would be a good idea to break that stream up into 3 videos that are a little bit more easily digestible. Now, please take any tier ranking like this with a grain of salt. My mood on any given day could mean the difference between an A or a B ranking. This is far from a definitive list, but rather think of it as a neat exercise that may give you some insight into what games I'd recommend. As always, my opinions may not line up with yours, and that's okay, we can still be friends. Today, let's take a look at the games from Homebrew Inc. Get into it, and we will start with Homebrew Inc. Homebrew Inc. is an anonymous publisher. And the reason they're anonymous is probably you can tell from looking at a lot of these box images here. They make a lot of unlicensed ports. So to give plausible deniability, to maybe try to not be in trouble, they are going to remain anonymous, and I will not expose anybody that wishes to remain anonymous. Anonymous! But they are reputable. I've got links to how you can order these games in the description of the video. If they're not there, I'll put them in after. The first one that we're going to look at is D2K Arcade Special Edition. Now this one threw me. When we get to Electrolyte, you're going to see it at the tail end, but I moved it to the tail end of that one because it's in an Electrolyte box. This was surplus stock from the D2K Arcade print run. It's got a sticker on it that says Special Edition. To preface this, DK Arcade is the Donkey Kong that we should have gotten back in the day on the Intellivision. Anybody who is an Intellivision fan knows that Donkey Kong on the Intellivision sucks. And DK Arcade is an excellent version of Donkey Kong. D2K Arcade is that version of Donkey Kong. It has DK Arcade on it, plus 5 new levels. And D2K Arcade Special Edition is D2K, the extra 5 D2K levels with another set of 5 levels. You can also play as Tony. There's slight different play styles in depending on which character you pick. D2K Arcade Special Edition, I think, is the best of the D2K or the DK Arcade games. I would give this one an A. Why don't I kind of break down what I would consider here? So S are games that I think that if you own an Intellivision and you collect homebrew, everybody should have in their collection. They're just the cream of the crop, the best of the best. A is what I would consider great games, just missing that little something that would push it into the S category. Still highly recommended. B, good games. This would be probably our best ports. Like solid games, solid purchase. C is where we start to get to the does it really belong on a cartridge level, in my personal opinion. They could absolutely be good games, but they might be games that you can play on other systems for cheaper. They might be games that I'm just not a fan of. Again, these are all my personal opinions. D and F we're probably not going to get to with any of these publishers, but D would be games that I'm full on saying this should be a ROM only. This doesn't belong on a cartridge. And F would just be like downright terrible games. Do not buy under any circumstances. You said That's D2K Arcade. Yes, but you see the little yellow sticker there, Casey? That says Special Edition. D2K Arcade Special Edition. Gets an A from me. Caverns of Mars. So this is one of three, and you know what? I'm going to drag up all these three Atari Soft. With Atari buying Intellivision, stop doing this. Atari has shown that they're pretty chill about homebrewers doing their things, unless you start putting their branding on stuff and start doing stuff with their IPs. Even then, they're nice about it, but yeah, we got to stop doing this type of thing. Caverns of Mars. I really like Caverns of Mars. There's really... Hey, Phil, you haven't missed much. We've just done one game so far. Caverns of Mars is a good game. I really like Caverns of Mars. I've always liked Caverns of Mars. I have it for my Atari 8-bit computers. There's not much added to it. It's a good game. If you like Caverns of Mars, it's a good version of it on the Intellivision. But this is one where maybe could have been a ROM. It's certainly not a bad game. Just because something ends up in Z, it doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's just, you know, this is a bell curve. You got your cream of the crop and you move down, and this one probably ends up in about the C range for me. Hello from Georgia, says Code Masseur. Welcome. Yar's Revenge. Yar's Revenge is kind of similar to Caverns of Mars. It's a pretty straight port of Yar's Revenge, but for the Intellivision. That said, there are some added gameplay modes that I think pushes it just above Caverns of Mars in terms of what it provides new to somebody looking to play Yar's Revenge on the Intellivision. It's about the same quality of port, but because it does add that little bit more, we'll throw it up into the B. Phil is here, the party begins. Yes, Retro Bliss Gaming is in the chat. Like I said, we normally would be doing our podcast tonight, but we're taking a week off, so after the stream, absolutely check out his channel, subscribe. He makes great content. Clax. Clax was my review for last week. I have never been the biggest Clax fan, but certainly compared to Yar's Revenge and Caverns of Mars, it's a more ambitious port. There's a lot going on. I definitely heard some complaints in the comments that the top conveyor belt was short, and that was kind of explained by Carlos Madruga in the comments as well. I'm not sure if he programmed this game or not, but probably not. But he knows a lot about programming, and he said it's probably a resolution issue on the Intellivision, that it's not like they could give it an extra 5 pixels. They would have had to give it a lot more space, and for everything that needs to be on the screen, probably not doable. But Clax, it's an ambitious port. It's a good port. I honestly feel like if I gave it more time, I would like it a lot more. Again, it's a source material thing. It's not the quality of the game. I'm going to throw it in B, because it is more ambitious. Certainly, I would assume harder to program than Caverns of Mars or Yar's Revenge. So I'm going to put Clax at a B. Cosmic Avenger. So this is another port of a Coleco game, and it's a Coleco game I don't like. Picture Scramble, and Scramble's a good game. Phil, who's in the chat, is a really big Scramble fan. I've never been the biggest Scramble fan in the world, or Super Cobra, or any of those kind of games. But imagine Scramble, but then every once in a while you have this rocket that comes behind you and just blows you up. I find it annoying. I'm not a fan of the game. It's not a bad port. If you're a Cosmic Avenger fan, you'll like this game. But for me, I would put it at the C level. I'm not a fan of Cosmic Avenger. Fantasy. So this is another port. Fantasy in the arcade, I did play a little bit. It's another game that I've never been a big fan of. It seems to have a lot of cheap deaths in it. For those of you who don't know, Fantasy is really a bunch of little mini games. Do this one task and then you'll advance to the next stage. Do this one task and then you'll advance to the next stage. And the whole point is you're trying to rescue your girlfriend or your wife or something. Yeah, sorry, Mr. Baseman. I'm not a big fan of Scramble. It's just never been my game. I understand that it's a good game. Just never been one of my favorites. Fantasy, there are a lot of stages. It's well done. The graphics are good. It certainly has that pace of the arcade. It feels really cheap at times. Cheap as in like cheap deaths. The product, none of these products feel cheap. But with the amount of stages, with the amount of stuff in it, I'm happy putting it at a B. I would recommend it. If you like fantasy, you'll like that a lot. Napoleonic Wars. So this was programmed by Brian's Man Cave. And if you guys aren't familiar with Napoleonic Wars, it's a version of Stratego with a lot of stuff added. And there was a team of people that was put together. We had Alan Toledo making music. Obviously, Brian's Man Cave programmed the game. We had Justin Cheer making graphics for the game. I gave ideas. I was a playtester, and I was asked my opinion on the game, and I gave some suggestions, and they took them all. And I know it's not for everyone, but I think the quality of the execution, I think for those of you who do like Stratego, this is a fantastic version of Stratego. Having been part of the team, maybe I'm really biased, but I put that one at A tier. If nothing else, for the quality of experience that it gives you. You know, the game may be basic, but with all the cutscene images and all the music tracks, I think it belongs up there. I know probably a lot of people wouldn't agree with me, but I think it belongs up there. Caverns of Mars for Intellivision Gamer is a B. And you know what? I think that would be fair, but it's my list, and we can still be friends even though we've got a little difference of opinion. You know what? You're probably not wrong. I like it. I like it a lot. Omega Race. So this is another port. The arcade is really cool. So for those of you who aren't aware, a couple weeks ago, I went to Pastimes Arcade in Girard, Ohio. And the owner of that arcade has the Guinness World Record for the largest pinball collection in the world. But he also has hundreds upon hundreds of arcade cabinets and some really rare ones. It's the only place I've ever gone that I can play, just walk up to and free play a original computer space arcade. And they had Omega Race, and it was the full sit-down cabinet. And what's really neat is that the buttons are down beside your seat. So you put your hands down beside yourself and you control your ship that way. Omega Race, you can kind of think of it as asteroids, but you're on kind of a course, a circle course. I like it a lot. It's a pretty basic port. They added a couple settings. They added some color settings. This one for me is a B. It's a solid B. I would recommend that. It's a good game to play every now and then. I like it. Upright and cockpits are works of art. Yes, I agree. And Retro Bliss, I do know what a playa is. We got playas in Canada. They usually have hockey sticks, but... Yes, I am a hoser. With a stubby beer and some maple syrup and a toque. Pumpkin Trilogy. So, this is a compilation of 3 games that NanoChess released on the Atari Age forums, put into a cart. I really like the fact that because each individual game is a mini game, I don't think they would warrant releases themselves. If they were each released as an individual cart, they'd be in this D category. I don't think that gives a value. But together, all 3 games are fun. Together and as a package, I actually quite like this. I would put it at the C tier. Again, not because any of them are bad games, but because they're all available for free to download individually. But for collectors and for people who want to play on their original hardware, it's nice to have these collections. And I think, really, going forward, having, you know, these small games, some small games have been released on cartridges, but if you start combining them, I think you increase the value for actually purchasing a cartridge. Because as you may recall, if you watch my video on Is Homebrew Too Expensive, I say it's not too expensive, but I do acknowledge it is very expensive. And so if I'm paying $60, $70 for a new Intellivision game, I want to make sure that there's value on that cartridge. And I think by putting the 3 there, they put value on that cartridge. That package is a solid D, he says. I would give it a C. I like them. Rick Dynamite. As Casey will attest, Rick Dynamite is hard as hell. It is tough as nails. It is an excellent game, but it is tough as nails. I was a playtester on Rick Dynamite. And actually I'm going to slide this over here so that I'm not looking off screen all the time. I just realized I'm doing that. Yeah, Mr. Baseman, it's kind of like a... triple action cart. Casey asks, who am I saying published Rick Dynamite and Space Patrol? So these are all Homebrew Inc. releases. Now, Space Patrol, I'm getting to it. Yes, it is, I think, the 7th physical Homebrew ever published. It was originally published by Left Turn only, but the re-release is published by Homebrew Inc. with permission. So that's why it's on this list. But back to Rick Dynamite. I was a playtester on Rick Dynamite, and I did beat the game. Obviously, as a playtester, we get cheats to give us infinite lives, just to make sure we can get through and actually play every level. But yes, Rick Dynamite, Dr. Volk, you're right. It's a Nintendo-level hard game, but for the Intellivision. That said, it's easily an A. You will get your value for money out of Rick Dynamite. If you don't like the game, it'll suck. But I like the game a lot, and its difficulty really gives that extra value. Space Patrol. So, as Casey was alluding to, this was a 2007 release by Left Turn only, and it was a very rare early Intellivision homebrew, and therefore on the resale market was very expensive. And so what Homebrew Inc. did is they re-released it. Space Patrol is a port of Moon Patrol. It was programmed by Joe Zbishak, who is a legend in the homebrew community. And I would say normally, so I'm kind of rating these. You also have to keep in mind something that was released in 2007. In 2007, this was S tier. You needed to have this. But I'm rating these in 2024. And so I'm giving them 2024 ratings. Space Patrol, for its historical value and for the fact that it allows a lot of people who otherwise never would have been able to get this cartridge to get it, and for its historical significance, I'd probably give it a B+, but I'm going to slide it into the A category. Thunder Soldier. Thunder Soldier is another recent release from Homebrew Inc. It was programmed by NanoChess. It's a good game. It kind of plays a bit like Contra, but not as good. It's not a bad game by any stretch, but there are a lot of places, a lot of spots in Thunder Soldier that I thought could do better. I thought the graphics could be better. I thought, like, you press up to jump. Especially with the Intellivision. If you're a programmer, don't ever do that. Up on the disc to jump is just a really, really bad idea. And as such, those few kind of, not letdowns, but things that keep it, for me, they keep it out of the A category. I don't think it belongs in the C category, so we're going to throw it in B. Good game, just could be better. So, Rev is in the chat and he says, it is not by Homebrew Inc. You're right, it is not by Homebrew Inc. I made it very clear that it was a re-release of the LTO Left Turn Only game released by Homebrew Inc. And simply because it's on the list as being a release from Homebrew Inc., even though it was not programmed by anybody that was affiliated with Homebrew Inc. at the time, it gets on the list. Wizard of War. So Wizard of War, I forget who it was in the chat mentioned, but I did see Cannabis Kid. Yes, it uses IntelliVoice. It has the voices. It's a solid Wizard of War game. If you like Wizard of War, this is a great version of it. I would argue that the Champ Games version on the Atari 2600 is better. It's a solid game. If you like Wizard of War, it definitely belongs in your collection. I'm personal bias because I really like Wizard of War. I'm going to put in an A, but I could definitely see an argument for it to B and B. Mr. Chess. It's chess. It's programmed by NanoChess. Surprise, surprise. It is an impressive chess game for the Intellivision. I am not a big chess guy, but if you are, it is, in my opinion, the best Intellivision chess game. It is quicker than the original Intellivision chess. It has a tournament mode where you're able to play against a few different characters, including a monkey. Good game. I would put it in B tier. If you're a big chess fan and a big Intellivision fan, this might be an S tier for you. But for me, I would put it in B tier. Yes, Mr. Postal. It's chess. It's chess. Like I said, it's a good version of chess. It's got lots of features that I've never even gotten to. But, yeah, it's a good version of chess. And last but not least is Stop the Express. This is the physical release. So this was originally released as a ROM-only purchase on Intellivision Collector. But then it was picked up as a physical release for Homebrew Inc. Stop the Express is a port of an MSX game, I believe. I think it was also on microcomputers at the time. I could be wrong. I'm not a fan of the game personally. I respect that it is well made, and like it's okay. But it's a great version. Like if you like Stop the Express, and if you watch the footage from my game review and you're thinking, hey, I like how that looks. It looks good and it plays just like it looks. It's a quality game. Definitely not A tier. I don't think it belongs with these other ones at C tier. I think that one's another B tier. So for Homebrew Inc., Mr. Posthouse says, wait, a monkey playing chess changes everything. All good 80s games or old consoles are better with monkeys or apes. Fair enough. Still gets a B, Po. So that is my Homebrew Inc. Ranking. Solid lineup. Lots of A's and B's here. Only a few C's. I could see the argument of that dropping down. I could also see the argument of that dropping down. But I'm giving them C's and I'm happy with that. So, moving on. Caverns of Mars was robbed. Intellivision Gamer coming in and saying Caverns of Mars was robbed. Okay, you know what? You know what? Not just for you, but because I do like it, and I like it more than these other two. This is a C+ that I dropped to a C. I'll throw it to B for you. But just know that for me, it's somewhere in between here.